Welcome back, you guys. I'm Tassie, and on my Ghost Sleep Day vlog today, I'm going to be talking about changing of the name. For those of you guys who are Hmong, you guys are probably pretty familiar with this, but there is something that we tend to do in our culture where we change people's names. And then we're going to go into setting up small shrines for people who just want something just so that they're okay. And then at the end, I'm going to give you guys a ghostly update of proven information about cats and ghosts. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I had just mentioned to you guys that, for Hmong people, we tend to do this thing where people end up having their name changed. So the whole theory behind that is that when children are born, if they're very sickly, they cry a lot, people will sometimes go to shamans and the shaman might tell them they need to have their name changed. So this is not like the individual themselves. They may not even be aware that there's anything wrong with their name, but the whole theory is that that individual's spirit does not like the name that was given to them when they were born. So, for Hmong people, in case you guys don't know this, so whenever, for Hmong people who are traditional and they still do this, so a woman gets pregnant, right? And then they have the splitting of spirit ceremony while she's still pregnant, before she's given birth. So you split the spirit from the mom and the child. And then when the child is born, then you guys also do a hupli, calling of the spirit for the child. So when that happens, you tend to name them. You call the spirit to the baby. Some people will go as far as doing a whole ceremony and try to see the future of the child. And they offer some select animal for thanks to the ancestors for having their child. So if the child ends up becoming very sickly and they're, colicky, they cry a lot, sometimes shamans may say that, this person, and by the way, it's not just a baby. You could be at any age in your life. If a shaman sees it that you should get your name changed, then people would then have a ceremony to have your name changed. Now, I do know some people, they don't do the full grand ceremony. Okay. If I had children, I would do a full-blown ceremony for them to have their name changed. But you don't have to. But my whole reaction is that I would recommend you to do a whole ceremony to have the name changed. And the reason for that is some people or some magically gifted individuals, they will just do like a small kind of like magical thing where it's not like a full ceremony where you use like, an animal or anything like that. They wouldn't do that. They would just do something kind of really small right then and there. And then bam, they change the name. So, just knowing the intricacies of everything that goes into changing someone's name, get a ceremony done. Okay. Now, if you did have your name changed and you did not have a ceremony done, don't feel bad. All right. Now, this is going to be, it's not like if your name is like Mary. Okay, they're not going to change your English name. They actually change your Hmong name. So for a lot of people who are Hmong, they will have an English name, a Hmong name, and then their last name. Sometimes the Hmong name may be part of their legal middle name. Now, I have a middle name. And you know what? Out of all my family members, I'm the only one who has the legal middle name. So, okay, like out of the older siblings. So my Hmong name... And I hate my Hmong name. My Hmong name is Ong. So it's actually O-N-G. And I've always hated my name. So the whole point, you guys, before I go into that, of changing one's name. So it's actually kind of like a metaphor for anybody who doesn't know this. Because let's say you have a name, it's your legal name. And let's say your legal name is Mai, okay? But then you got your name changed to Yer. So... even if people still call you Mai, it's okay. And the thing is, a lot of people, they may feel that it's disrespectful if somebody still calls you by your old name, especially if you've told the individual that this isn't my real legal name anymore. But then they're totally okay if somebody who's not Hmong calls them Mai still. But if anybody is Hmong and they call them Mai, they get really mad. They're like, no, my name is now Yer, It is perfectly fine. It's not like something's gonna wrap itself around you and all the magic's gonna get undone, okay? So it's a metaphor. all of the magic is actually done already. And that the name changing, it's a metaphor. Your immediate family, those who are close to you, yeah, they should probably just respect that you've had your name changed. But it's okay if they slip up and they still call you Mai. It's perfectly okay. But some people are very adamant about it. And it's your own thing, like, that also goes hand in hand with Michael the Demon. So, people are very afraid when it comes to like a ghost or a demonic entity, right? They do not want you to say the name. The name, again, is a metaphor. So having myself hidden from Michael, that all the magic workings behind that, it's already been done. So even though I say his name, it's not like he's going to come out and find me because I said his name. So it's a metaphor, and a lot of people, they have that fear, that superstition. So they hang on to it. They refuse to say it, but it's perfectly okay. So, because it doesn't make any sense if people who are not monks still uses your legal name, because so even if a shaman had your name changed and legally on paper, you never changed it. People at work are still going to call you by your legal name. So they're not going to know it. And it's perfectly fine, you guys. Now, for the name on the individual, when the shaman goes into the spirit world and they have a ceremony and everything, the spirit world will tell them what the name is supposed to be for this new individual. Sometimes some shamans may be a little bit biased in choosing of the name, but in general, the spirits are supposed to be telling that individual what the name is going to be. Now, as for my own name, my Hmong name, Ong, I hate that name. I hate it. Okay, but the reason is because I've always felt like this huge amount of irritation because I've always known that's not my real name. But that also goes hand in hand with some people who they've had their name changed multiple times because they still get sick, and then down the line they may end up changing their name again. And names is a huge representation of who somebody is, and so like for me, I've always hated my Hmong name. If my family calls me that, I'm always like, don't call me that. Don't, like, my name is Tassie. Like, I will go with Tassie over Ong any day of the week because I've always felt like that's not my name. Like, why are they using this weird name to identify me? So I've never liked that name. So the only ones who call me that are my younger siblings. They will sometimes call me that, and I'm just like, why do you guys use that name? It is the weirdest name. But I think it's because when they were younger, like that was when I was around them a lot, and then they would sometimes hear it being said. So then they hung on to that name versus always getting used to calling me Tassie. So sometimes they'll be like, oh, and I'd be like, no, stop calling me that. But I've never had a ceremony to change my name because it's not that big of a deal. Pretty much. Now, Ong is part of my legal name. And it's really funny because there's so many people who try to figure out what my middle name is. Okay, so setting up shrines. So a lot of you guys may be aware of this. Typically, people who are supposed to become shamans, if they become bothered a lot, they will end up putting up a small shrine. And this is like the easy kid level one. You can set it up yourself. Now, when people set up these shrines, okay, these small level shrines, this typically is not the shrine that they will end up like being a shaman on, where they have a bench and they're going on their spiritual journey and all that stuff. This shrine, it's literally like an end table, and they just put like some cups of water that they have no idea what the water's for, and then they put like a candle there, and then they put a little bowl with rice and some incense sticks on there too. Okay, so some people can go extreme and put some flowers on there. Okay, whatever you want really, but this is really not like a shaman shrine. This is literally just a shrine. And then you say out loud for your guides to go and live there. So that's perfectly okay. The only thing that people may not be aware is that's like a band-aid short term. Because if somebody starts to set a small shrine like that, you need to be aware, and I was asked this, and this is why the question's coming up right now. You need to be aware that it can attract other things, not just your guides, because this is not a shaman shrine. This is just poropo, which is like it's a nothing thing. So it's literally a table that you just put things on there and you tell your guides to live there, okay? So it's not a real shrine, which means there's no form of protection around it. So other spirits around, like negative spirits, can come. And if you guys leave it up and you don't take care of it, meaning you don't become a shaman, okay? You have this thing up. It's been years, it's going to be really, really bad for the individual, whoever's it is, because it's basically you're opening this door and you just left it unattended. You never took care of it. Now, the problem is the person who sets it up and it's for, you're tied to it. So it's part of you. So if a bad thing does come to it, starts touching it, like spirits, like they'll come around. Even if they carry it with somebody who came into your house, they will go over there and start touching it because they love these kind of things. And there's nothing to protect it. So they're going to keep touching it. And what happens is it gets implicated on the individual. So whenever somebody sets up these small little shrines, it's not meant to be a permanent solution. Like, you shouldn't really go longer than a year until you guys set up your real shrine, because what ends up happening is the person starts going crazy. Literally, they'll start going crazy. They'll start to see things. They'll get haunted, whether they're awake or asleep. They'll have a lot of fights in the house. They will just be everywhere, and they'll change their whole demeanor. So, and that makes it a lot worse when you actually go to raise your real shrine. And I say that because it's a lot more work. You have to get rid of a lot of things. You have to undo and take care and undo a lot of things. So just be very careful if for anybody who's starting a small shrine, but you really don't have any form of protection around it because you just lit it up so that sometimes you can pray around it. Okay, so, and the thing is, that's perfectly okay. Just don't do it for a very long time. It's not good. Now, when I was younger and I first started, I never had a playful shrine. Like I never just set it up on a table. Like, I waited for my actual teacher to come, and she actually had a whole ceremony, and then I had one. Okay, like I didn't just leave it there. Like, okay, I didn't go off and do it myself, basically. So some people do that though. And it's really up to the individual. It's their own journey, whatever they're going to deal with. It's not good to do it for a long time. So for me, when I started on my first level, my teacher set it up, and she came and she did a whole ceremony for me. And then I started going, and I started to go into the spirit world on that shrine. But then for that, you bring things down to protect it. So, and when I say bring things down, it's not like you go to the attic and you bring physical things down. You go into the spirit world, you go into the heavens, and then you actually bring things down. So that is what I am referring to. Oh, I love it whenever there is a new shaman and they start their journey. It's the energy that is there, the commitment, the devotion, the wanting to do it, and having hope and faith. It is the best, but shaman teachers, they will watch their students the closest at their first level, because that's already going to give them implications of what kind of shaman they're going to be. How are they going to be as a student? So I've known a lot of shamans who started their journey. Wherever they're at right now, it's totally different. However, I've known a lot of them who started it. And I feel like shamans, and even just thinking back on my own experience, that's when you're the craziest. I'm not even gonna lie. I feel like, okay, and the reason why I feel like that is because whenever a shaman first starts off on their first shrine, they bring down all of these guys, and you feel it, and you don't know how to control it. You really don't. You still cannot identify when it's yourself, when it's your guides, or when it's something else, when it's a message. So I feel like that is when you're the craziest or zaniest. Okay, maybe that's the better word, zany, because you're learning everything, and you're so doubtful of everything, and you're so afraid of everything at the same time. And then when you look back, you're like, oh my God, I was so stupid. So I definitely feel like, whenever a shaman first starts off, that's when you need to watch them the closest, because if they start leaning too far to a certain side and they start going kind of crazy, it is time to tone it down a bit. And for shaman teachers, they would go into the spirit world and help take care of that. So now, as far as, and the thing is, I don't have a lot of experience for my first shrine, because I was on it for literally like a couple days. And then I went to my second level. So I didn't have a whole lot of time on my first shrine. My second shrine, I spent more time on that one. My teacher was like, no, you need to slow this down. We're going to keep you on your second level for as long as they could. Because normally for my lineage, it takes a few years. So when I was on my second shrine, I felt like in my second shrine, I had gotten older. And it's this weird feeling, but I did feel like I gotten older. And you're still learning though. I didn't feel like I was as strong as when I was finally on my third level. Now, for my second shrine, when a shaman is typically on their second shrine, you can already do ceremonies. So that kind of identifies where you should be at when you're at your second level. If you're already on your second level and you still can't do ceremonies, you need to really reassess your relationship with your teacher. There may be underlying issues that's going on in the spirit world that should be taken care of. So when I went on to my second level, I did my first ceremony, and there's a lot of rules that go around ceremonies and everything like that. But I did my first ceremony, and it was great because you kind of like, no matter how many times you've seen another person do ceremonies, another shaman, it's totally different when it's your turn. Okay, like it's totally different when it's your turn, because then you're like, oh my god, like what do I even do? Like you can't remember anything. So my first ceremony, for anybody who's wondering, god, it was such a blur, but because all these years have crossed and I've done so many now, and I'm trying to remember how naive I was. And I would say that my first ceremony was probably pretty short, because everything you're unsure of and everything you're nervous about, because you don't just immediately go into the spirit world. For my lineage, we actually do things with the animals, exchanging of the souls and spirits. And then you have to do things around the individuals and fixing things and marking things. And so it's just, you end up doing a lot. But I feel like it was such a blur. And my teacher was there to watch me for my first ceremony ever. I was really nervous. A lot of people were there. They all wanted to see how I was going to do it. But it felt great though. Like when I was done, I was like, everything came into a full circle. And I was like, oh, because, before you do your first ceremony, you don't get to practice it. Like that's the thing with being a shaman. There's never a time where you get to practice this. So it's like, even when you go into the spirit world and you tell your guides, okay, tomorrow I'm doing the ceremony, you need to tell me step by step what I'm supposed to do. They won't do that. They don't. Because they will show you when that moment happens. Okay, there's no point. Like they'll tell you little things and they'll kind of help you understand it, because you could be sitting there mulling over it, worrying like, okay, tomorrow's the day, everybody's coming. Like, what am I supposed to do? They may not tell you at all until finally that day you go in there and boom, everything is clear and they tell you everything you're supposed to do, and then you're like, I have so much to do. So it's a total whirlwind, but I remember my first ceremony though, and it was such a long time ago. I just felt like I was so young and so much more naive. I was probably happier too at the time back then, because as you keep doing ceremonies, as you keep experiencing the drama in the spirit world and with everybody, it changes you. It totally changes you, where it doesn't feel like it's worth it anymore to do all these ceremonies and to do all these events because of the issues that arise from it. And for anybody who is going through this, you will know exactly like the amount of drama that comes out. The thing is, it's like, it's not even like drama directly related to me. It's because I have to be aware of everyone else's drama with everything else. So it wasn't even like it was my drama. It was just politics. Everything was about politics. And that took away a lot of the joy and passion that you could have had about it. So just be aware of that, you guys. All right. Now, I have hard evidence. Okay, not really evidence, but okay, I witnessed myself. Cats can see ghosts. Cats can see ghosts. Okay. Sometimes Sammy, the dog, that's my boyfriend's dog, he'll be like laying on me and we'll be all comfortable and it's just me and him. All of a sudden he'll get up and start barking really aggressively around the room, right? And then he'll be like watching something and then it goes away and then he comes back and lays down. Now, the thing is, that only happens sometimes with Sammy, okay? Like more often than not, he doesn't sense anything. Now, Oscar though, he is 100% different. My boyfriend's always saying he sees my ghosts and everything like that. So the thing with Oscar, whenever I say, Oscar, Oscar, and like he'll look at me and then he'll look at something and then he'll look back at me and he'll just like look away. He always does that to me. And so what is it? Just the other day, I was literally putting on makeup and I was in my bedroom. I was in my boyfriend's bedroom and I'm putting on makeup and then there's like the doorway. And then all of a sudden I see this ghost walk past the doorway into the bathroom. And I turn and I look and right behind the ghost was Oscar. Oscar was walking and he was looking right at the ghost. And I saw the ghost. And Oscar saw the ghost. And Oscar wasn't even looking at me. Oscar walked again towards the bathroom, still staring at the ghost. And he was just like staring at him like, what are you doing? Like, where are you going? And I was like, oh my God, he can see the ghost. And I was like, Oscar. And then he did his usual. He looked at me and then he just went back and he just kept staring at the ghost in the bathroom. Like, it's not every day I'm gonna see a ghost and then the cat is following the ghost and staring at the ghost. It's not every day, man. So I have proof. It's not real evidence or anything like that. But again, for myself, I know now Oscar can see ghosts. Oh man, this boy. That's kind of more scary when he's around me then. But man, I just couldn't believe it. But man, this past weekend, it was really insane with the amount of spirits that kept coming out. And I was like, is it a full moon? Is it a full moon? Like, every room I went into, I just kept seeing them. And I'm like, y'all need to quit playing. Like, I'm busy. Like, I'll literally be gardening because I got really into gardening. I'll be gardening and they always come out. And I'm just like, just help my garden grow. Okay, that's all I'm asking. All right, you guys. That's